We're a quarter way through the semester, and if I'm being honest, I'm struggling. Classes are picking up, assignments are starting to flood my canvas, and the only thing keeping me going is that the Eagles are 2-0 and it's finally Thursday, which means it's time for SportsLine. Hello, I'm Megan Cooney.
And I'm Charlie Hugg. If the beautiful 70-degree weather hasn't been enough to make your week, then maybe a brand new episode of All Things LaSalle Sports will. So open your windows and put down the remote. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to our second episode of SportsLine, which means we're already really in the swing of Explorer Sports and bringing you all of this week's recaps.
And later, I sit down with men's soccer manager Colton Steele to talk about his new role in the team and his time on the team.
But first, let's take a look at our Explorer Top 10.
Number 1, the A-10 Conference released the women's basketball schedule, which consists of 9 home games and 9 away games. The Explorers will kick off the conference by traveling to George Mason on December 30th before their first matchup against Davidson on January 2nd. LaSalle will begin their season on November 6th away at Coppin State before returning to Philly for their home opener on November 9th against Maine.
Number 2, LaSalle Athletics partnered with LaSalle's Organization of Latin American Students to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month at the men's soccer game last Saturday. At the game, Olas sold samples of Jarrito juice and paletas to raise funds.
Number 3, Alex Sanders was named this week's NovaCare Student Athlete of the Week. Sanders placed 7th overall in the men's 6K at the Mainline Invitational.
All right, women's basketball schedule was released.
Exciting.
I'm very, very excited for basketball season. You know how much we love our basketball teams here. I can't wait for it to come up. I don't know how you're feeling, but.
No, basketball season's always fun. It always brings the energy again. We are, I would like to say, known as a basketball school, so just the fact that you're getting the schedule means we're on the way.
Exactly.
So it's coming up sooner than you think.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight Olas partnering with men's soccer. I think that's really good. Like you said, we're a big basketball school. We're a big athletic school in general, but we also offer a lot of clubs, and there's not a lot of students who are athletes, so I feel like having that mix and kind of making the student body interact is always a good thing.
Yeah.
So.
It's nice to see that connection.
Yeah. So that's it for our top 3. Now let's see how our teams did in this week's recaps. Field hockey took on Lock Haven last Friday. LaSalle stayed dominant throughout the match, both offensive and defensively. Although there was no scoring in the first 2 quarters, the Explorers tallied 10 shots by the time the first half ended. Solaspana put up 4 shots in the first 2 frames before teams went into the half with no score. 10 minutes into the third, the Explorers scored the game's first goal. Juliana Smith was able to find the back of the cage off a rebound from Lock Haven's goalie, producing her second goal of 2023. 3 minutes into the final 15 minutes, Zao Rodrigo scored her second goal of the season, advancing the score to 2-0. In the last few minutes of the game, Kat McFadden found an open Solaspana in the front of the net, who put the ball past the goalie for the final 3-0 score. It was then time for the Explorers to take on 10th-ranked Rutgers this past Sunday. The first quarter consisted of strong defense from both teams, but no goals. Early in the second, Rutgers was able to find the back of the cage, scoring the first goal of the match. In the third quarter, both teams again held up a strong defense, but again, no goals. The Explorers were aggressive on offense in the final 15, putting off 4 shots, 2 of which by Solaspana. It wasn't enough, however, and the Scarlet Knights scored late in the final quarter, ending the game at 2-0.
The men's soccer team kicked off their week, no pun intended, against A-10 rival St. Joe's on Saturday night. It was a tightly fought contest with the Explorers controlling the pace in the first half, but were unable to finish on some promising opportunities. Coming out of halftime, St. Joe's would finally put a point on the board with a goal in the 47th minute. The Owls would hold on to this lead for the rest of the second half off a strong defensive effort by the Explorers until senior Omri Ezra drew a penalty kick in the 83rd minute with a chance to tie the game. Ezra sent the ball perfectly into the bottom right corner of the net to make it a 1-1 game with just 6 minutes remaining. Ultimately, the game would end in a tie, bringing the Explorers' record to 3-2-2. It was then on to Ryder on Tuesday. It was the Explorers who would strike first this time, with Yuval Nimrodi netting one in the 34th minute to give LaSalle a 1-0 lead. However, Ryder would score off a rebound on a missed shot right before halftime to send the game into the break tied at 1 apiece. Coming out of the half, it would be all Ryder, outshooting the Explorers 13-6 in the contest and scoring 2 goals in the half to secure them a 3-1 win. Despite the Bronx' strong offensive play, Explorers goalie Philip Sabati still played a great game, saving 5 of the 8 shots that he saw on goal.
Women's soccer took on Atlantic 10 champion St. Louis this past Sunday. Olivia Vercella took the lead during the first half, taking 2 shots. Emily Banaszewski, Elizabeth Estrada, and Haley Gestry also attempted shots in the first half, but to no avail. The Explorers and Billikens both headed into the second half scoreless. The Billikens came back swinging in the second half, however, scoring 4 goals. 3 more shots were made by Vercella, Madison McCreary, and Rashay Walker. It was to no avail, though, and unfortunately the Explorers fell 4-0.
The men's and women's cross-country teams competed on Friday at the Mainline Invitational at Haverford College. The women's team placed 3rd in the 7-team meet with 87 total points. Helene Usher led the Explorers, pacing 13th in the 4K race with a time of 17 minutes and 46 seconds. Jerica Lafrano would finish 20th with a time of 18 minutes and 27 seconds. Amelia Arts and Casey McLeese finished 21st and 22nd respectively with the times of 18 minutes and 35 seconds and 18 minutes and 45 seconds. Lastly, Gweno Good finished 24th with a time of 18 minutes and 54 seconds. The teams get a little bit of a break before traveling to Lehigh University to race again on September 30th for the Paul Short Run.
Men's golf participated in the Ryan T. Lee Memorial this weekend. Nikita Romanov led the way for the Explorers, shooting a 1 under 70 on Saturday and 3 under 68 on Sunday to give him a final score of 4 under 138, which earned him 6th place overall. Kevin Lyden also made a name for the Explorers, tying for 8th after posting a 2 under 140. The Explorers finished in 5th place overall, scoring a total of 1 under par 567 during the 2-day tournament. Women's golf participated in the Hornet Classic Monday and Tuesday. Hannah Basler led the Explorers, placing 23rd overall, shooting a 20 over par 233. Another notable mention includes Kaylee Zeman, who placed 55th, and Nino Okankava and Paige Sharamo, who finished 58th and 61st respectively.
So Megan, I hate to say it, are we bad luck at all? The men's team was off to such a great start at the beginning of the season, and then as soon as SportsLine starts up, they can't find their groove. And I mean, they're doing great. I was personally at the game on Saturday against St. Joe's. It was a great fought battle. I mean, coming out with a tie is something that you love to see. St. Joe's isn't having their best season. I think they're 2-4-1 now after that tie. So a tie is still great, but coming off of a really hot start, and when I talk to Colton later, you'll see it's one of their best starts in years, and now it seems like they're kind of falling off, but I really think they'll be able to find their stride. But that tie is definitely something that they should feel proud of, because end of the game, they were down the whole second half, and so being able to come back and with 6 minutes left score that was really encouraging for them. Yeah,
I feel like you kind of mentioned finding their stride, and I feel like that is kind of what needs to happen maybe with a couple of our Explorer teams. The talent's there and the potential's there. It's just having them find their niche or having them find their stride, which can always be a struggle kind of we're still like freshly in the season. You have new players, you have new teammates coming on. I think with women's soccer, they're also looking to find their stride. They're taking multiple shots on goal. We're seeing this throughout many of their games, but it's not ending up in a goal. And I think that just finding that cohesive energy with your teammates is something that's really important. It doesn't mean that the good players aren't there and that the talent isn't there. It just means that kind of like working together as a team.
And moving on, I think it would be wrong for us to not mention how field hockey held up against the 10th ranked Rutgers. Again, you can't be upset about that loss at all. I mean, to keep it that close that time with a top 10 ranked opponent, there's a lot of good going on for this field hockey team. They did the same thing with Villanova. They're keeping these hard games close, and while they're resulting in losses, it's definitely something that they should be really proud of and should really boost their confidence moving on in this season. I was really impressed seeing that score.
Yeah, like you said, Rutgers is a 10th ranked team. They're a hard team to beat, and yes, it was a loss, but it wasn't a terrible loss because they kept up with them that entire time. And I kind of want to shout out Sola Spana for that. She has had more goals this season alone than she had the entirety of last season, and I just feel like you said the talent's there, just the cohesive energy, but I feel like they're all doing really, really good. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Charlie was able to sit down with soccer manager Colton Steele to get some insight on his experience on the team, as well as the men's current season.
People join Walk MS to raise awareness and funds that change the world for everyone affected by multiple sclerosis. MS attacks the brain and spinal cord. It's the most common neurological disease leading to disability in young adults. Walk MS brings communities together, creating teams with friends, loved ones, and coworkers to rally around those we care about and end MS forever. Join us. Together we are stronger. Walk MS fundraising accelerates research breakthroughs and life-changing breakthroughs. It will take all of our passion, determination, and fundraising to end MS forever. Together, we can change the world for people with MS. Join us. Register today, start a team, and raise funds at walkms.org.
Yo, bro, what's good?
What's going on?
How you feeling, man?
Doing good. How you doing?
When'd you start smoking?
Smoking? It's a jewel, bro.
It's a jewel?
Yeah.
Listen, you might as well be smoking cigarettes. When you start juuling or vaping, you're 4 times more likely to start smoking cigarettes.
Is that true?
That's very true. Give me the jewel. You don't need it.
To learn more about e-cigarettes, go to thetruth.com.
Welcome back. Let's see what soccer manager Colton Steele had to say as he sat down with our very own Charlie Hug.
Joining us in the studio today is senior soccer team manager and former player Colton Steele. Colton,
Hello, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, as a senior, the question I have to ask is, what made you choose LaSalle?
Yeah, so for me, I played soccer my entire life. I've played since the age of 3, so growing up and just my entire life, it's always been a strong passion of mine. So I knew that I definitely wanted to play in college. And my junior and senior year, actually, I got hurt and I had to get ankle surgery on both of my ankles. I had to have like the bone shaved down. Anyway, so I didn't have a lot of options, but I had 2 tournaments, and LaSalle was one of the schools that reached out to me after one of those tournaments. And this was like right in the heart of COVID season. I went and toured, but nobody was there because all the students were home. But I liked the campus. I liked the coach a lot. I met a couple of the guys. They were really cool. And yeah.
So coming into a D1 soccer program, especially in that COVID year, that must have been challenging to say the least. So what was that process like, committing to a school that you were going to play a sport at when during that time where you couldn't really do things socially?
Yeah, it was tough. And obviously we had the fall semester, we were all remote, which was, it's the usual soccer season we play in the fall. So kind of adjusting to that and having to train in the fall kind of as a preseason, take like a preseason mentality, and then come back in the spring, and we had a shortened season. Not everybody was really there. We had our actual preseason in the spring, it was a month, so it's a lot longer than a normal one is. So it was definitely a lot different, especially coming in as a freshman. But I think that kind of helped too, because I didn't know what to expect prior, so this was kind of like my first college experience, rather than if that was like my second year and I already kind of knew what the swing of things were. So it was definitely different, but I think it was pretty easy to adapt to for me.
Right. And so, as you heard when we introduced you, you are the manager, but you were on the team for 3 years. What was that experience like for your 3 years? We heard about the beginning of the freshman year, but once that season came in and you got into the swing of things and became kind of natural, what were those next 3 years like for you?
Yeah, so they weren't the easiest 3 years player-wise. I didn't get a ton of game time. And that's okay. At the end of the day, I'm still glad. You know, I really enjoyed going to the practices. And the biggest thing for me and the best takeaway is just being on the team, being in that family environment. Those guys, I can say, every single person on the team out of all the years that I've been there, I could trust any of them with anything. I could go to them with anything. And I think there's just a family bond in sports, and especially amongst our team. I think all of the guys are great. And that, for me, is the biggest and best experience.
And that's cool you say that, because on the show, we've interviewed a lot of soccer players in the past couple of years, a lot of guys that you've come through the program with, a lot of guys that you've played with, and that's one of the things that everybody always says is it really is a brotherhood on that team.
Yeah.
So with that being said, how has the team changed since you've come in? And now, as a manager, you're seeing it from that kind of third-person point of view. Have you noticed a difference in team bonding, or has there been a change in culture of the team as the years have gone on?
Yeah, so I would say, especially as the years have gone on, so my freshman year, we had a different coach, and he actually left after my freshman year, and Coach Thames came in for my sophomore year. And I think he has really improved kind of that bond and family mentality as well. We do a lot of team activities. He's always pushing for us to reach out to one another in the summer and stuff, just stay in contact, just continue to build those relationships with one another. So I think he's one that I can definitely sit there and say I think he's contributed a lot over the years to the team's success. And then in terms of a manager perspective, for me, the team has started really, really good this year. I think they had one of the best starts in the last decade, I want to say. Their first 3 games, they won 2 and tied 1, so they were undefeated. Now, unfortunately, they've gone into a little bit of a slippery slope their last couple games, but they're still undefeated in A10s. They tied St. Joe's. They play URI this weekend, so I think that they have a very promising rest of the season. I think as well, we made the tournament last year, and then we brought in a bunch of new guys. I've met all of the freshmen and stuff, transfers on the team. I think all of them really help improve the current team that we have, and I think, yeah, I see good things in the future.
Great. And so before we get into the decision to become manager and all that stuff, I do have to put you on the spot real quick.
Oh, God.
This is a question that gets some people. Do you have a favorite memory of playing on the team?
Ooh.
I know that's a tough one, especially being on it for 3 years. You got a lot to think about.
I do actually have a favorite memory. I think my favorite memory is my sophomore year and my junior year, I got COVID. And I went home and I was in quarantine for 10 days. And the first practice that I came back to, I wasn't really sure if everybody was just going to be like, oh, what's up? But I got there and everybody's like, oh, great to see you. Like, everybody's very excited to see me, even though it had only been 10 days. But it just made me feel very welcome on the team, and just like I was appreciated and missed while I was out.
That's awesome. All right, so now for the big question that everybody at home's been wondering. So where did the decision come from to change from player and then become the manager? So I'm sure that was a tough decision. So just bring us kind of through that process. What was going on in your head? What made you kind of decide to do that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's probably the hardest decision that I've ever had to make in my life. I was thinking about it for quite some time. In the spring, I was unsure whether I wanted to play, so I decided to take the summer off from soccer just to see maybe if I was burned out, and whether, I would kind of miss it not playing. But I didn't, and I think that is for the best. I haven't regretted my decision at all. I'm really focused now on my career and the next steps. Like I said, I didn't really play a ton during my time, so playing after school was never an ambition of mine. I never really thought I was going to go pro or anything. So now I think it's just kind of one of those things that was going to come to an end eventually. And now I'm just ready to move on to the next chapter of my life with my career and everything.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's, sometimes the tough decisions are the best. But so one of the things that we praise on the show all the time is the way that the Division I athletes at this school handle their academics and can still keep a strict schedule while doing sports and keeping up with their academics. What, in your view, has been the biggest change in your responsibilities outside of the team? Have you seen a lot of open time with free time, and how has that affected you? Like, just what are your day-to-day differences in being a player versus now being the manager?
Yeah, so especially with classes, when we're in season and stuff, we're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to practice at 6:30, 6:45. So it's very taxing on your body, on your brain. You're really tired throughout the day, so you're kind of dragging yourself to class throughout the entire day sometimes, and I'll admit it. I've skipped a couple classes because I was just too tired after practice. But it's definitely a big change to me because, being the manager, I have a lot more flexibility with my schedule. I don't have to necessarily attend every single practice, but I try to go 2 to 3 times a week. So I'm still getting up early, but then on those off days, I have enough time to rest. So I feel like I have enough energy, and I have more time in my schedule. Where I don't have a lift or anything, which we would usually have in the spring. We usually have a lift later in the day, so I have to kind of prepare for that throughout the day as well. But yeah, I feel I have a lot more energy. I'm able to attend classes. We miss class a lot for games and stuff. And traveling, it's hard to do homework while you're staying in a hotel or on the bus and whatnot. So I've been finding it a lot easier academically now that I've made the switch.
Right. And so you mentioned earlier on the successes at the beginning of the season, kind of what's been going on. We talk a lot about the impact of the freshmen and the younger guys on the team. So with that hot start, and we just played St. Joe's, we have a couple more A-10 rivals coming up. What do you think about the rest of the season? How do you think we're going to finish out? Do you think we'll make the A-10 playoffs? From the manager's perspective now, because I'm sure as a player, you always want to have the positive mindset. You can now kind of see it from that third-person point of view. You're more seeing it as a coach and as a helper, a mentor. So for the rest of the season, what are your expectations?
Yeah, so I think we play tomorrow against URI, and I think that's going to be a very big turning point because, like I said, they've kind of taken a little downturn in their results the last couple of days, or last couple games, I should say. But this game is big. It's another conference game, another A-10 game, and I think if we can win and kind of revert back to what we started the season with, I think that the guys will have a lot more confidence in themselves, and I think that's going to carry out through the rest of the season. I think, especially A-10s-wise, I think we will make the tournament. I put a lot of trust in the guys that were on the team last year that helped get the last year's team to the A-10 tournament, and I put a lot of faith in the freshmen. They've all made a really good impact on the team. A lot of freshmen have been playing this year, and just from the practices and stuff that I've seen, they're always competing in practice. They're always giving 100%. And yeah, I think the team is really, really good this year, and I've got a positive outlook for the rest of the season.
Awesome. Well, Colton, thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you luck in the rest of the season. We're really excited to see where that goes. But we'll be back after a short break, and when we come back, we'll let you know everything that's coming up in LaSalle sports this week.
When you miss an episode of Q&A, you get hungry. When you get hungry, you don't know what to eat. When you don't know what to eat, you get irritable. When you get irritable, you miss questions on your exam. Don't miss questions on your exam. Watch Q&A on LaSalle TV.
Meet Norm. He lives with anxiety, but with the help of this latest innovation from Be Normal, he can be normal, just like everyone else. With the swipe of a finger, you can project happiness, confidence, machismo. Why settle for being real when you can be normal? The Normal Maker. New from Be Normal. This item doesn't really work because there's no such thing as normal. We're all different. What we like, how our brains work. In fact, 1 in 5 of us live with mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Start by talking to someone you trust. And remember, there is no normal.
Extinction is forever. To save America's most iconic and imperiled species from extinction, we must fight for their future. Fight to save the natural lands that wildlife call home. Fight to limit pollution. Fight for smart development. Fight for their future. And fight for ours. For so goes nature, so goes us.
Welcome back. We've got another week of LaSalle sports coming up, so here's what you have to look forward to. Men's soccer will travel to Rhode Island this Saturday to take on the Rams at 7 p.m. Women's soccer will be at home this Sunday to take on Richmond at 1 p.m. They will also be at home this upcoming Thursday to play against VCU at 7 p.m.
Field hockey will travel to Massachusetts tomorrow, September 22nd, to take on the Minutemen, while women's golf will travel to Fort Collins, Colorado, to play in the Colonel Wallenberg Ptarmigan Ram Classic on Monday, September 25th, and Tuesday, September 26th. So, Megan, a lot of traveling going on this week.
I know.
But I think you have something to tell the viewers at home.
I know. Speaking of traveling, I'm kind of sick of Charlie. 2 weeks has just been enough for me. So you're going to have a special guest host the next 2 weeks. Who that will be, I don't know. But Charlie will still be here, so you can have that to look forward to.
You got that to look for, wow.
But yeah, I am looking forward to, however, seeing how field hockey does in their upcoming game. It's another conference matchup. They just had a conference matchup against Lock Haven, beat them 3-0. They're really strong defensively this season, so I am looking forward to that. So you're going to have to keep me posted.
And we'll get a look at women's golf, traveling all the way to Colorado. That's a long one. I'm not going to try to pronounce that Colonel Wallenberg Ptarmigan Ram Classic, but I hope they'll have a great time. I'm sure they're going to have a great success.
I'm sure they will. Women's golf is always good to us. They always know what they're doing. So I have Hannah Bassler is definitely starting her senior season off strong. So I look forward to see what she's doing with that. So that just about wraps it up for this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorers play, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Instagram at SportsLineLTV. We welcome you to send your thoughts and suggestions there.
For our entire SportsLine team, I'm Megan Cooney.
And I'm Charlie Hugg. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the game.